Welcome to Top Stories Hub. Today we've got a new story, one choice that changes everything. Are you ready? I just wrapped up a brutal 12-hour shift at the hospital, and man, every muscle in my body was begging for a break. Pulling into the driveway, I could practically feel the cozy hug of my bed waiting for me. The ride home was a hazy mix of tiredness and sweet relief, and I couldn't wait to ditch the madness of the ER behind me. But the second I climbed out of the car, something felt seriously wrong. There I was, under the faint glow of the porch light, when my phone lit up with the security camera feed, showing my mother-in-law, Linda Harris, smirking at me in a way that sent chills down my spine. I froze right there, my heart thumping hard, not just from the long day, but from the jolt of seeing her. Her icy, cutting voice crackled through the speaker, "Your wife's done with you, Jack. I've swapped out the locks. Find somewhere else to crash." Her words slammed into me like a fist to the stomach, but weirdly, a strange calm washed over me. Deep down, I'd been bracing myself for this, ready for the day I'd have to deal with her tricks. Instead of blowing up or breaking down, I just gave her a small grin and said coolly, "All right, Linda." Inside, though, my brain was already working overtime, connecting the dots of how we'd ended up here. I took slow, careful steps toward the front door, my mind buzzing through everything that had happened that day. Work had been a marathon, I'd saved lives, made split-second calls without blinking, but nothing at the hospital could have prepped me for the icy stab of betrayal waiting at home. Lately, Emily's been tossing me these nervous looks, little signs that something was off between her and her mom. I'd had a gut feeling trouble was brewing, but I never thought it'd hit like this. Staring at Linda's smug mug on my phone screen, I quietly wondered just how far her plotting went this time. Every part of me screamed to barge in and get answers, but years of staying cool under pressure kept my tone even and my moves calculated. I fished out my keys and gave the door a try, yep, locked tight, just like she'd bragged. It hit me hard and fast, this wasn't some snap decision, she'd cooked this up way before I rolled up. A weird combo of gloom and grit settled in my chest. I thought back to all those late nights whispering with Emily about our future, dreaming big while the kids snoozed. Now, one person who'd always pushed too far was putting all that at risk. I yanked my phone out again, eyeing the security feed like it might spill more secrets. I caught little things, her lip twitching as she talked, her eyes flicking around like she was waiting for backup. It all screamed she was loving this power trip over me, over our house. Not for the first time, I asked myself if she'd always meant to shove Emily aside and grab the reins of our family for herself. Right then, a flicker of rebellion sparked up in me. I'd spent so many nights quietly gearing up for the worst, knowing I might have to battle to keep my spot in my own home. Standing there, hit with this curveball of betrayal, I felt a quiet strength kicking in. I wanted to yell at her, demand she explain herself, but I knew jumping the gun would just feed into her game. So, I figured I'd let her savor her little win for now. I sucked in a deep breath and started plotting my next step with care. I ran through my choices like moves in a chess match I'd played a dozen times. Should I hang back and let her tip her hand, or step up and show her I'm not the pushover she thinks? The answer came soft but sure, I'd flip her own scheme right back on her. There on the porch, with the chilly night breeze brushing my worn-out skin, I felt the load of every tough call I'd conquered at work. I'd stared down life-or-death moments every day, and now, facing this personal gut punch, it hit me, my real fight wasn't in the ER, but in guarding the life I'd built with Emily. I shut my eyes, letting the fatigue and hurt roll over me, but that fierce drive that had pulled me through endless crises flared up too. I was set for whatever came next. Every little plan, every tiny detail, had steered me to this showdown, and I'd damn well use all my skills to turn this low point into a game changer. Time to take back my house and my life. I stood there, shut out but far from beaten, each ticking second stretching into a vow of payback and hope. With a slow nod to myself, I owned the challenge ahead. No way was I letting her come out on top. I'd show her that my love and stubborn will were way tougher than any plot she could hatch. Turning from the camera, I headed back to my car, quietly swearing that tonight, despite the sting of betrayal and the sour taste of losing, kicked off a fresh start for us, one where I'd scrap for what's mine, and no locked door or creepy grin could hold me back. The jolt from last night still buzzed in my head as I grabbed my phone, hands shaky. I punched in Emily's number, praying I'd hear her voice to quiet the mess of questions swirling inside. Straight to voicemail, damn. That empty sound sank my heart deeper, and when I caught a faint click like a recording starting, I knew something was seriously messed up, like a nasty prank was about to drop. Sure enough, my phone pinged, a video from Linda popped up. She was smirking, her voice dripping with smugness as she said, "She's got a new number now, Jack. She's with us while she sorts herself out." I stopped cold, glued to the screen, trying to wrap my head around it. No question about it, this wasn't some random outburst or slip-up, it was a slick, twisted move to screw with us both. Frustration and sadness hit me hard. Emily's not the type to just ghost me, yet here I was, stuck with a deadline and a creepy message. Hell-bent on getting to the bottom of this, I hit the call button for Tom Davis, my lawyer. Tom's been my rock, steering me through hospital red tape and personal messes before. I needed him now, not just for legal know-how, but for that steady vibe he always brings. The phone rang, that familiar chime hinting at some calm ahead. "Jack," he picked up, his tone smooth but edged with a hint of rush. I laid it out for him, keeping my voice level, going over the voicemail and that damn video. Tom didn't say much at first, just a heavy quiet that told me he was thinking hard. He promised to dig into whatever proof we could find and pressed me for anything I could remember. His cool-headed way reminded me that even with all this betrayal and emotional crap, there was a way forward, a shot at nailing the truth. Right after hanging up with Tom, my brain jumped to the next guy who could help, Ethan Harris, Emily's little brother. Ethan's always been the type to poke holes in everything, never buying the surface story, especially about his mom. I dialed him up fast, feeling the clock ticking. It rang a couple times before he answered, his voice low and worried right off the bat. "Jack, what's up, man?" he said, sounding on edge. I told him how Emily's call went nowhere and about Linda's icy message. Ethan went quiet for a stretch, long enough to clue me in that he was chewing it over big time. "I haven't heard a peep from Emily all day," he said slow, his words thick with unease. "She told me she'd be home early, but now Mom's acting like she's vanished, and I don't know what to buy anymore." I could hear the doubt in his tone, sharp and real, cutting through the line. We started hashing out the last few hours together. Ethan sounded stunned as he ran through how weird his mom had been that morning, pushing this odd line that Emily wasn't around, like everything was fine. But it didn't sit right with me at all. My gut was screaming this was a cold-blooded move to cut Emily off from me, to shake us up with doubt and confusion. I tuned in close as Ethan painted the picture of that tense vibe at home, the sneaky looks, the half-said warnings that now clicked in a dark way. Right then, I felt this mix of rage and heartache, pissed at the backstabbing from someone who's supposed to have our backs, and gutted for Emily, trapped in this sneaky web of lies. It sank in that every little thing, every shady remark from Linda over the years, had been building to this. It was all a big, ugly plan to tear down our home and everything we'd made together. I checked with Ethan if he'd caught any word or hint from Emily later that day, but he admitted he'd been feeling this empty space too, like where her usual comfort and vibe should have been, there was just nothing. His tone got stronger as he swore he'd dig into every lead with me. "Jack, we've got to get to the bottom of what Mom's pulling here," he said, sounding dead set on it. That lit a fire in me, a reminder I wasn't slugging through this mess solo. Something shifted inside me, hopelessness started giving way to a itch to do something. Tom's words bounced around in my head, scoop up every shred of proof, every sly comment, every trick, and use it to shield our family. The truth of it all was brutal, but I knew cracking it open was our only shot at taking back our lives. After I got off the phone with Ethan, I slumped back in my car's quiet, letting the heaviness of it all sink into me. I kept replaying that creepy voicemail in my mind, every word, every little break in her voice. The bigger mess was starting to take shape. Linda had spun this tight trap to keep Emily cut off and leaning on her, all to shove me out of the home we'd put together. The sting of being double-crossed cut deep, but pretty quick. A fierce need to fix this took over. I made up my mind to grab every bit of evidence, every little clue I could sniff out, knowing the next moves were make or break. The night's stillness closed in as I sat there, my head spinning with questions and a low, steady anger. No way was I letting this lie slide by. I'd face down every fib, every hidden move, and drag the real story into the open. Getting ready for the long haul ahead, I knew I wasn't just Emily's husband here, I was her guard, a guy dead set on standing by her, whatever it took, ready to battle for the family one person's nasty schemes were ripping apart. Every second, every detail, was a chunk of this puzzle I'd piece together, no matter how rough the road got. I hopped off the curb, sucking in a long, grounding breath, the cool evening air mixing with this growing fire in my gut. I'd rolled up that night figuring I'd just crash from exhaustion, maybe snag a quiet minute to unwind suburbia style. Instead, I walked into a setup that screamed every bad vibe I'd been nursing for months. Standing on the porch, I spotted boxes of my stuff all jumbled up, shirts flung around, random junk strewn like some ghost had been at it. This wasn't a quick getaway or a sloppy pack for a trip, nah, someone had cooked this up with care. That morning, I'd headed to work with zero clue the life behind these walls was getting rewritten without me in the script. Seeing my whole world stuffed into messy boxes hit me with sadness and a rock-hard will to push back. My pulse was pounding, a blend of mad and sharp focus, as I ran through the day in my head. I'd always known Linda had it out for me, bubbling just under the radar, but eyeballing the hard proof of her grip was almost too much to swallow. Her sharp, mocking voice kept ringing in my ears, and it clicked, every offhand jab, every sneaky play over the years, had been building to this. I edged up to the door, my hand resting on the cold lock that now barred me from my own place. A sour taste crept up as I thought back to all the times I'd told Emily her mom's heart wasn't in the right spot. Still, I'd clung to this dumb hope that love and logic would beat out spite. Tonight, that hope was fading fast under the cold slap of betrayal. I scanned around for anything that'd tip me off to how far this went. The boxes weren't where they belonged, they were tossed in this weird, messy way that felt like it was meant to throw me off. Every item seemed to mutter about a quick exit, a scheme kicked off long before I pulled in. I wove through the clutter and propped myself against the porch railing's cool wood, trying to tame the storm of thoughts whipping around my skull. I started piecing together the little red flags from the last few weeks, the brushed-off comments, the half-lies, how Linda's grin sometimes hid a whole tornado of secrets. Now, it all had this dark, clear edge, and I felt like I was smack in the middle of a trap she'd laid out slick as hell. I could still see her on that security feed from earlier, her voice oozing smugness. That smirk was seared into my brain, not just annoyance, but a full-on battle cry. It hit me her game was never about keeping anyone safe, it was all about power, about planting her flag in the house I'd helped make ours. The anger bubbling up wasn't wild, it was deep and steady. I couldn't let my feelings fuzz up my head. This was a showdown of brains and guts, and I'd spent years sharpening both. My mind drifted to Emily, my heart, whose missing presence now felt like a hole punched through our life. Every chuckle we'd shared, every late-night promise of always, was under fire from this cold-blooded backstab. I swore to myself I'd do whatever it took to get her back safe, to tear down the net of lies wrapped around us. I shot one last look at those scattered boxes, each one a badge of our appended world, and I locked in my choice. No way was some crafty enemy who didn't get how strong love and loyalty are gonna push me out. I started pacing around the house, checking every window and door like I might find a back way in, step by step. My brain was churning through plans and what-ifs, weighing every move against what it'd cost me. I thought back to all those nights I'd prepped for curveballs, and now I was set to tackle this weird kind of break-in with the same cool-headed grit. I figured I'd jot down every odd thing, every detail, so when the truth came out, there'd be no wiggle room for doubt. I mentally ticked off the list, stuff out of place, the rushed pile of boxes, the chill in the air, even the little shake in my hand as I got my bearings. This wasn't some off-the-cuff spite, it was the payoff of old grudges and slick planning. The weight of it all hit me, not just for me, but for the life Emily and I had carved out together. Right there in that doorway, sealed shut from the inside, I swore I'd take back my house, my sense of self, and the faith that got smashed so brutally. I whipped out my phone again and started filming a few bits, a quiet record of what was really going down tonight. With each steady breath, I geared up for the next play in this risky mess. I'm Jack Thompson, a guy who's faced the ugliest sides of life and come out tougher. Now, staring down this betrayal right at home, I'm not backing off. I'll pick apart this trickery bit by bit, and nothing, not even some slick trap, can keep me from digging up the truth and piecing back the life that's been ripped to shreds. I stepped back from the front door, heart heavy but steps firm, the cold night air curling around me as I dialed Ethan. I knew he got how deep this betrayal cut. My fingers shook a little as I tapped his number, all those ignored little red flags from the past weeks flashing in my mind. When Ethan picked up, his voice came through low and careful, like a guy who's watched too many secrets spill out. "Jack, I've been mulling over everything from today," he said, and I could almost feel the worry dripping off his words. "Mom's moves are way too slick. She's been playing us like chumps." While we talked, I mentally walked back through the day, the way those boxes were slung around so sloppy, like someone wanted me to see it wasn't an accident but a setup. I filled Ethan in on the small stuff, how cold and precise the lock switch felt, that tiny hitch in Linda's voice that gave away her thrill. Every look, every word, started looking like pieces of a bigger scheme, one meant to box me out and leave Emily exposed. Ethan hung on every word, his steady voice calming my racing head. "Yeah, I get it," he said low. "I always had a bad feeling. You remember how she kept saying Emily was doing the right thing? I never bought that line." What he said lined up with my own doubts, and we started fitting the puzzle together. I thought back to Linda dropping that offhand comment earlier about Emily being out and about, like she was just roaming free while we were left scrambling. That throwaway line now felt like a flare, a tip-off to the shady game she'd been running behind the scenes. We agreed we had to tackle the evidence straight up. "I want to go through it all again," Ethan pushed. "Every word she let slip, every look she shot, we've got to find where her story cracks." I gave a quiet nod he couldn't see, starting to stack up a mental list of moments that now had a dark twist. Thinking of Emily, tangled up in this mess of lies, lit a fire under me. I could see her soft smile, her warm eyes, now probably dulled by fear and confusion. Just imagining her hurting under someone we trusted flipped a switch. I needed answers, bad. I decided to circle the house again, not just to check my stuff's layout, but to spot any weird scratches or signs of a break-in I might have missed, wiped out from the day. The night was dead quiet, save for the faint hum of far-off cars, and as I prowled the property, every shadow seemed to murmur hints. I stopped by a window where Emily and I used to chill, laughs and quiet talks filling the air. Now, it just stood there, mute, watching this gut punch play out. I scoped out every little thing, a fresh nick on the door frame, the messy scatter of stuff that hinted at rush and sly moves. Each thing I noticed got tucked away as ammo, set on nailing the one pulling these cruel strings. The more I looked, the plainer it got. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment tantrum, it was a full-on calculated job to corner and control. Anger started bubbling up, but I kept it cool with a steady focus. Every detail counted, and I had to dig out the truth slow and careful. Ethan's voice on the line kept steering me as we swapped memories, sketching a timeline that screamed premeditation. We settled on hitting the house again tomorrow, cameras and notebooks in hand to catch every glitch. For now, cloaked in the dark, I was stuck with just my recall and grit. I propped myself against the porch's cool edge, shutting my eyes for a sec to let the day's weight settle. The sting of betrayal burned through me, but so did this spark of fight, knowing I wasn't helpless. I'd claw for the truth, no matter how buried it was. Each breath locked in my promise to rip open the lies and fix what got wrecked. Tonight, with the wind rustling the trees and the house standing like a quiet monument to deceit, I told myself I wouldn't stop till every hidden thing was out and every wrong got lit up. I was in the Harris Place's entryway, heart hammering with a mix of mad and nervous vibes. The night had just flipped into something darker, more dangerous. My gaze locked on a tight hallway stretching to a door that, unlike the rest, looked like it was guarding some big secrets. I could tell something was off, maybe the Real story was stashed back there. I'd been picking up whiffs of trickery all day, but now I was dead set on getting solid answers. I eased toward it, the old wood floor groaning under me like it was trying to warn me off. The air felt thick, silent, with that musty smell of a forgotten spot, giving me the creeps as I edged closer. I stretched out and tapped the door, my knuckles brushing light against the weathered wood. For a beat, all I got was my own pulse thumping in my ears. I leaned in, listening hard for any hint of life back there. Then, in the hush, I caught it, a weak, almost panicked whisper. It sounded like, "Dad," hanging there all frail and urgent, and it hit me like a shockwave of dread. That could be the key, something Linda had tucked away. I sucked in a big breath and shoved the door open with everything I had, figuring I'd find nothing but shadows. Instead, my jaw dropped when I saw Emily sprawled on the floor, half out of it, eyes all glassy and lost. It broke my heart and pissed me off all at once. The usual spark in her was dim, like she was stuck in some bad dream she couldn't shake. I bolted to her side, my voice wobbly as I whispered, "Emily, you hear me, babe?" She gave me this dazed, far-off stare, and I could tell she wasn't right. Her arms were limp, her skin clammy under my touch. I shot a quick look around, spotting a half-drunk teacup on the desk, its edge crusted with dried gunk. It all clicked right there, no fluke, no bad luck. Someone had doped her up on purpose, and this locked room was meant to keep her out of sight from everybody. My brain kicked into overdrive, flashing back to every little thing I'd picked up on earlier, how Linda's eyes had this icy gleam when she'd said Emily was out for the night, those quick, sneaky glances she'd shot to someone else before. Now, it was all staring me in the face. I dropped to my knees next to Emily, grabbing her hand soft-like, trying to keep her steady. "Emily, I'm right here, babe," I murmured, wrestling with the ache in my chest and this stubborn drive pushing up inside me. My heart was racing as it sank in. This wasn't just some personal stab in the back, it was a bold, risky play by someone dead set on keeping her out of the picture. Right then, every clear-headed part of me was yelling to get the cops on this, to call for backup before she got any worse. But looking at her frail shape, this fierce, protective rage boiled up too. How the hell could Linda pull this off? Drugging the woman I'd give anything for, stashing her away like some dirty little secret in a musty, forgotten room? I checked her eyes and felt her pulse, my head spinning through all I'd learned about this nasty game that had just turned physical. She needed help fast, and I wasn't waiting. I grabbed my phone, hands jittery, and punched in 911. While I waited for someone to pick up, I let my eyes roam the room, soaking in anything that could back me up later. The study was packed with old books, papers, stuff that hadn't been touched in forever, totally different from the chaos everywhere else in the house. The way it was all set up had this chilly, planned-out vibe, like it was screaming a message at me. I jotted some quick notes on my phone, locking down every bit of this scene for down the road. My mind was a storm of plans and fury as I swore I'd shove all this proof right in Linda's face. When the operator finally came on, my voice was taut, holding back the panic as I laid it out fast. "Emily's in a locked room, barely awake. I think she's been doped up," I said, the urgency spilling out. The operator's cool, steady tone didn't do much for my pounding heart, but I knew help was coming. I stuck by her, running my fingers through her hair, whispering soft stuff to keep her calm, even as my head churned through what this betrayal meant. This locked room, just some random corner of the big house before, was now the spotlight for the latest twist in this messed up game of lies and control. Last night flashed back, the security cam catching Linda's smug grin and her sharp, biting words, and it lit this fierce urge to push back, not just for me, but for the woman who's my whole world. As sirens started wailing closer, I made a quiet promise I wouldn't quit till every dirty secret was out, every lie stripped bare, and Emily was safe from this crap. My head was buzzing with grief, rage, and grit as I took one last glance at that locked room, now a symbol of the backstabbing in the fight ahead. I told myself I'd crack open every hidden truth, whatever it took, to fix the life that had been torn apart so cold. I held Emily tight as she wobbled, barely standing, her body shaking, eyes dim and lost. Her voice came out faint, all shaky and unsure. Mom told me I just needed a rest. Before I could even move, she sagged more, her energy slipping away like sand I couldn't grab. My chest squeezed tight with this brutal mix of sadness and anger. I knew damn well this wasn't random, it was a heartless, calculated move. I cradled her head gentle-like, peering into her eyes, seeing her pupils pinched tight, a quiet clue she'd been messed with chemically. My hand shot to that half-empty teacup on the desk, its edge crusted with dried-up gunk, hard proof that backed up my worst fears. I thought back to the creepy little moments these past few days, Linda pushing that Emily needed a breather, her voice all fake calm, that careless shrug in her eyes when I'd asked about Emily. Now, in the study's dim glow, it all crashed down. Linda'd been slipping her something for days, twisting her slow into this daze where she wouldn't fight the power grab. Seeing my wife, my tough, vibrant Emily, so fragile and helpless lit a fire in me to hit back hard. I pulled her closer, feeling her tremble, a sign she was losing against whatever was pumping through her. My mind raced to when she'd been all life and laughs, her voice loud and her spirit unbreakable. Now, it was down to these weak, confused whispers, and I got it, every second I wasted was another pulling her deeper into this mess. With shaky determination, I peeked over my shoulder, half expecting Linda to be lurking there, grinning at what she'd done. Ethan's pissed off hiss, "Mom pulled this," rang in my head, pumping up my anger and drive. No way was I letting this trust-smashing slide. Every gut instinct screamed to grab the phone and hit 911, to get someone who could yank Emily back from this edge. My hands were trembling, a mix of adrenaline and dread, but I caught a split second of calm in the chaos. I sucked in a breath, bracing myself against the flood of feelings. I had to keep it together for her. I dialed slow and steady, each ring cranking up the pressure as I raced the clock. Waiting for the operator, I rested a hand on her arm, silently swearing she wouldn't go through this alone. Her chest moved soft and steady, a tiny hope she was still hanging on, and I could almost see a flicker of her old self in those blank eyes, giving me the guts to keep going. The operator picked up, and I kept my voice firm but rushed, laying it out plain, "My wife's been drugged, she's hardly awake, and I'm scared for her." The calm on the other end clashed with the storm in me, but I clung to knowing help was close. I stayed right there, murmuring soft reassurances, still scoping the room for anything else to nail Linda's game. Every detail, the scattered junk, that teacup placed just so, locked in the truth, this wasn't a slip-up, it was a cold-blooded move to break the woman I love and trash our life. Sirens got louder, a sign help was rolling in, and I let myself think for a sec about the messed-up irony of it all. In the study's stark light, holding Emily like some delicate prize, I felt stuck and fired up all at once. I swore quiet-like that this cruelty wouldn't write our story. I'd do whatever it took to get her strength, her fire, her freedom back. Every laugh we'd shared, every sweet moment, kept me going as I braced for the tough road ahead, one full of hurdles but lit by the chance to fix our busted-up life. Standing there, waiting for justice to kick in, I knew this fight was just starting. The proof was mine now, and the truth, buried under all her lies, was about to break free. With sirens closing in and Emily's fragile warmth in my arms, a fresh strength hit me, a promise that no matter how hard Linda tried to steer us, our love would pull us back to who we are. I stood in the hospital hallway's harsh light, still rattled from the night. Emily's blood test sat in front of me, proving every nightmare I'd had, she'd been drugged. The hospital's usual hum, just background noise to my long shifts, now sounded like it was mocking this cold betrayal. I watched the doc talk soft to Emily as she started coming around, her voice a weak whisper repeating. She kept saying I needed time to think, to trust her. Every word twisted my heart. Even beat up as she was, I could see traces of the woman I adore, and it cranked up my resolve to make this right. Before I could drown in the gloom, Tom Davis, my lawyer, walked in, looking ready to roll. He was gripping the security footage from our place, hard evidence of every smirk, every snide jab Linda threw when I got home. I stared at the screen, stunned, as her voice cut through, every syllable a planned gut punch. It was all crystal clear now, every threat, every overstep caught dead to rights. Holding that proof, every second turned into solid determination. I knew we had to move fast and smart from here. Cops showed up quick, a relief in all this craziness. I handed over the footage and every note I'd scratched down these last few days, every little thing sketching out her spiteful intent. The officers gave a nod as they flipped through it, their faces tightening with the weight of her guilt. My heart was pounding as one of them said an arrest warrant was out, all thanks to what I'd pulled together. I watched them gear up to face Linda, knowing the truth I'd scraped up wouldn't stay buried under her slick lies anymore. Meanwhile, Linda, who'd schemed to sneak off to Florida, got nabbed right at the airport, caught in the act. I could still see that icy, calculating stare from the security cam. It matched the look on the cop hauling her off now. A mix of satisfaction and sadness hit me, satisfaction, 'cause justice was finally closing in, and sadness for the family she'd blown apart with her plots. Knowing she'd tried to bolt to dodge the fallout fueled this hot anger in me. Whatever she might try to spin, I knew the evidence we'd piled up would peel back every one of her lies. I was parked in a hushed corner of the hospital waiting room, Tom right there with me, going over that footage again. The video didn't pull punches, every frame screamed Linda's viciousness. It felt like each dot on that screen was spelling out our betrayal, a tale headed straight for the courtroom. My mind drifted to all those times I'd second-guessed myself, wondering if I'd done enough to guard our home and life. But now, with the truth wide open, I took some comfort knowing my late nights planning hadn't been for nothing. Every brutal shift at the hospital, every second I'd spent fitting this mess together, had brought us here, a point where justice started patching up the cuts she'd left. The cops and Tom teamed up, prepping the evidence for trial, and their grit matched mine, eye for eye. It was a bittersweet vibe, a little win wrapped in a lot of hurt. The road ahead was gonna be long and messy with tough stuff to face, but right then, teetering on the edge of her comeuppance, I caught a flicker of hope. The truth was out there now, and nobody could twist what those recordings showed. Every tick of the clock made the proof stronger, like a brick wall against any more of her tricks. My head swung back to Emily, resting in a quiet hospital room, getting her strength back bit by bit. I swore to myself I'd stick by her through it all, protecting her, looking out for her, making damn sure her voice, once choked by drugs and manipulation, rang out clear again. Those soft, shaky words and that far-off look in her eyes kept me rooted. Our love was the light pulling us through this storm of betrayal and courtroom fights. As the paperwork got squared away and the legal gears turned, a heavy calm settled over me. Linda's mask of lies was finally slipping, and the evidence roared louder than anything she could say. I stood solid, believing truth and justice would win out, that every secret she'd buried would get dragged into the courtroom light. I gripped that security footage tight, tangible proof of her dirt, knowing it'd anchor our case. Right then, I felt this deep, unshakable drive. No matter how long it dragged on, I'd make sure the woman who dared to wreck our world paid for every lie, every cruel move, every second of misery she'd dumped on us. Leaving the hospital that day, the early evening chill brushing my skin, I carried the weight of what had happened in a quiet hope for a life free of her games and fear. That evidence was our shield and weapon, and I was ready to swing it to carve out a fresh start, where love and truth would stand tall over deceit and betrayal. I sat in the courtroom's cold, stark air, feeling every rough moment and small win that had hauled us here. The tension was thick as the trial kicked off, every word said, every bit of evidence dropped, pushing us closer to taking back what was ours. Up on the witness stand, I kept a cool front, even with a tornado spinning inside. My eyes, still raw from the sting of betrayal and loss, swept the room as the judge banged the gavel. I sucked in a breath and started talking, laying out every detail slow and steady, the security clips of Linda's nasty smirk, the sloppy pile of boxes that locked me out, the shut-tight room where I found Emily all week. I kept it simple, straight up, heart-heavy, making sure every fact hit home and the truth couldn't be dodged. While I talked, I clocked Linda in the defendant's spot, her face a mix of cocky and scared. For the first time, it was obvious her grip was slipping. The room stayed hushed, just the prosecutor's even questions and my steady answers cutting through. Tom, my lawyer, was right there, eyes sharp and locked in, backing me up with every scrap of video he'd rounded up. I spotted Ethan, Emily's little brother, up in the seats, his face torn between trust and grief, while even Robert, our father-in-law, looked shaken hearing the story that peeled back years of manipulation and lies. The prosecutor broke it down plain and hard. Linda faced charges of breaking in, theft, locking Emily up, and trying to poison her. Every count slammed against the twisted net she'd woven to run our lives. The truth rang in every word as I thought back to all those times I'd felt something was way off. That helpless vibe when my home turned into her playground, the gut-wrench of finding Emily drugged in that room, I let it out slow, making sure every piece of that awful night stuck in my story. The screen backed me up, showing every caught whisper, every sneer, leaving zero space for doubt. Mid-trial, my heart jumped when Robert Harris, Emily's dad, got up to talk. His voice was quiet but firm, spilling years of buried stuff about Linda's controlling ways. He owned up to knowing her games for ages, just taking the family chaos in silence too long. His straight, honest words piled more truth on the pile, giving the jury a full view of her long con. Ethan, always wary of his mom, went next, his words packed with odd moments and weird moves that now added up to keeping Emily cut off. Hearing them hit me with a little relief, the folks who got our hurt were finally stepping up. As the trial rolled on, I got surer of myself. I tackled every question with the solid grit of a guy who'd scrapped hard for his love and his place. The jury's eyes were glued to me, soaking in every bit like they were patching up our busted life too. The courtroom vibe shifted, from shock to getting it, seeing Linda's moves weren't a fluke but a long, slick plan to own our family. Every juror's nod, every look from Tom, felt like a win. I knew the truth was our big gun. After hours of laying it out, the jury stepped out to figure it. Waiting was torture, every minute dragging as I relived the hurt and clung to hope for better days. They came back, faces serious, but the call was straight, 15 years behind bars for Linda. Relief and sadness hit me together, relief that justice landed, sadness for the years of hell we couldn't undo. As they cuffed Linda and walked her out, that smug look was gone, swapped for defeat and regret. For once, I saw she'd lost the reins she'd held over us. Stepping out of the courtroom, the past's weight started lifting, traded for a careful hope for what's next. The trial was just one leg of a long healing trip, but it screamed loud, even with betrayal this deep, truth and justice would come through. I held that hope tight leaving the building, set on rebuilding with Emily, fixing our family's broken bits. That verdict wasn't just punishment, it was a vow that love, respect, and truth would always outmuscle control and lies. The days after the trial zipped by in a haze of hushed talks, shy grins, and the slow grind of patching our lives back together. I'd catch myself staring at the walls of our old place, once alive with laughs, tears, and big dreams we'd cooked up together, now just ringing with the quiet of everything we'd lost. After Linda's betrayal and that drawn-out courtroom mess, Emily and I figured fixing things up wasn't just about gluing trust back together, it was about finding ourselves again and carving out a safe spot free from all that control and dread. I'd sit with Emily for hours in the soft glow of our living room, holding her hand while she walked me through memories of the good old days. Her voice, once so full of spark and energy, shook under the load of all she'd been through. We hashed out our worries and what-ifs, owning up to the fact that getting better was gonna be a long, bumpy ride. In those still moments, I promised myself I'd be her anchor, the steady guy she could lean on hard. I started digging into ways to help her heal, flipping through stuff on therapy tricks and groups for folks who'd been through mind games like hers. I booked us with a chill therapist, this lady with warm eyes and a gentle tone who made us feel like our hurt mattered and we could actually come back from it. Ethan and Robert started reaching out too, their voices low with sorries as they talked about wanting to fix our busted-up family ties. At first, their help felt shaky, but it grew into this solid reminder that love can stitch up even the nastiest cuts. Selling the house wasn't about giving up, it was about needing a clean slate, a spot Linda's shadow couldn't touch. I hunted down this quiet farmhouse out past the city limits, a little retreat where the easy flow of nature could calm our rattled souls and give us room to breathe. Stepping onto that land for the first time, I felt this rush of possibility. The crisp air and endless fields hinted at a life not weighed down by old grief. Those first days there, we unpacked boxes stuffed with more than just junk, memories of a life we were hell-bent on reshaping. Clearing out each room of our past was like staking a claim on what's next. The farmhouse, with its squeaky floors and sunny windows, turned into this blank slate for a fresh start. I slapped soft, soothing colors on the walls while Emily picked out furniture that screamed comfort and a new chapter. Every swipe of paint, every piece we set just right, was a quiet shout that we were pushing ahead, side by side. Out in the garden, I got my hands dirty planting seeds, tending them with the same care I was pouring into us. Watching those little shoots poke up reminded me life can bounce back, even after the roughest freezes, with some time, patience, and TLC. I'd stand out there at twilight, the sun dipping low, soaking in this calm vibe from how simple it all felt. Day by day, that farmhouse started feeling like home, laughter filling the quiet, trust edging out the doubt. It wasn't all smooth sailing. Some days, old ghosts snuck into our chats, and that betrayal sting tried to drown out what we'd gained. On those rough nights, I'd pull Emily in tight and murmur, "You don't owe anyone an apology." She was a pro at this crap, but we're tougher than she ever gave us credit for. My plain words carried the heft of our grit together. Bit by bit, we started spilling our story to friends and neighbors, and it clicked with folks who'd been through their own hell. The people around us wove into this quilt of support, every kind word or nod telling us healing wasn't something we had to do alone. Weekends turned into lazy walks down twisty country lanes and cozy nights by the fire, where we let ourselves dream big again. In that warm flicker, I'd catch Emily's eyes sparking with hope, and I knew every hard step was dragging us towards something brighter. Rebuilding wasn't just about picking up what got smashed, it was about crafting a life full of bounce back, love, and guts to trust again. I figured out real strength isn't dodging pain, it's the will to climb over it, turning hurt into a base for new dreams. As the seasons flipped, our farmhouse grew into this living proof of where we'd been, a spot where every mark told a tale of making it through, every fresh flower shouting our comeback. Linda's mind games still hung around like a faint echo, but they couldn't call the shots anymore. Hope had dug in instead, this steady, stubborn whisper that even after the blackest storms, the sun would break through, warming us up and pointing us to a future packed with love and solid strength. It's been a whole year since everything flipped upside down, and here I am, parked on the porch of our new farmhouse, watching the sun ease down behind the rolling hills. The air's got this cool, easy feel, and for the first time in what seems like forever, a real calm washes over me. Emily's right here next to me, her hand slipped into mine, her eyes, once dark with worry and pain, now glowing with this soft hope that brightens her whole face. I think back to those long, brutal days we slogged through, the backstabbing, the courtroom wars, the endless nights of not knowing what had happened next, but now, those feel like faded whispers. Linda's harsh words and bitter moves still prick a little, but they're more like a badge of how tough we are, not some weight dragging us down. Every breath I take right now feels like I'm walking away from that ugly chunk of our past and stepping into a life full of love and freedom. I catch Emily's gentle smile, and my mind flips back to that crazy day I knew I had to brace for the worst. Deep down, I was sure our love could weather any mess, and I was ready to scrap for it, even if it meant staring down lies and betrayal. I'd kept the house in my name, this quiet middle finger to the chaos, even when I prayed I'd never need it. Turns out, that move was our lifeline. Whenever I see Emily's smile or feel her warmth next to me, it hits me, real love isn't about owning or controlling, it's about sticking it out together, building something free of fear and head games. This farmhouse, tucked away in the peaceful countryside, stands as hard proof of our fresh start. I've thrown everything into this place, mending busted fences, planting a little garden where wildflowers pop up wild and free. Every day I'm out there tending the dirt, it's a reminder that life, even after getting beat up bad, can kick off again with some care and time. Come evening, we're out here on the porch, splitting simple dinners, chatting about what we want next, laughing at little stuff that used to feel so small. I remember those restless nights, wide awake, wondering if the truth would ever win out, if our love could patch up the deep gashes left behind. But as the sun dips and the dusk paints everything soft, I know we've landed on something bigger, a freedom forged in the grind and a peace from beating the worst. Sometimes, I still get letters from Linda, mailed from her cold prison cell, dripping with regret and bile. We don't even crack them open, our future's too good to let old ghosts mess with it. Instead, we soak up every second we've got and every hope sprouting in this new life. I see Emily's grit, a spirit that's taken hits and now pulls strength from what's coming. I talk to her quiet like, telling her she's got no blame for the control that used to trap her, that every move we make is toward healing and starting fresh. I'm dead set on keeping this love we've battled for alive, a bond built on respect, getting each other, and a promise that won't budge. The fear that used to creep around's been replaced by the glow of our guts and our call to live free. Sipping my tea, hearing the crickets hum soft, I feel the past's load slipping off my back. There's still stuff to fix, scars to mend, trust to shore up, but the road ahead looks open and good. I lean over, kiss Emily's hand, making a silent vow I'll always fight for this love and the life we're shaping together. In this still, golden slice of time on the porch, it clicks, we haven't just made it through, we've gotten bigger. Our love's turned into something deep and lasting, a rock to lean on for whatever's next. And now, with stars popping out in the night sky, we're standing here, no fear left, wrapping ourselves in the freedom of knowing we're right where we're meant to be. That's the end of today's adventure on Top Stories Hub. Please like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments.